I thought of taking up, there is another war going on. Which is that? War of words. I am not talking about war of words. There is another war which is going on in the world. It's a civil war in West Asia. There is a civil war going on in Yemen. Okay, and this has become a bit complex now. If you look at our, please see this. Now it has become more bloody. So just see Yemen's position first. Let us see the. You can see Yemen. So the capital city is Sanaa, okay, but a major city is Aden. So Sanaa is in the control of the rebels from 2014. Of course, civil war and the issue started with the Arab Spring. You might have heard about Arab Spring. What is that? Spring in Arab. They work like spring. So sudden, in 2011, in these regions, the demand for democracy and change of regime, they started in 11. So that is in the spring season time. So that is why it is called Arab Spring. Anyway, so let us talk about this Yemen, and this is something. I mean, even there was an editorial recently in Hindu, I think, and there are internationally also a lot of news about Ukraine and Russia, but here the number of people getting killed are much more than what is happening in Ukraine and the Russia war. Okay, so that is the context, and this is something which is going on for quite some time. So many parties are involved also. So that is why I would like to talk about this. So if you look at this Yemen was North Yemen also, then there were South Yemen also. Okay. It is unified only in 1990. Yemen as a single country came up, but otherwise for almost 500, 600 years, Yemen was also ruled by the Ottoman Empire. But in 1839, Britishers had a foothold, and then subsequently Suez Canal was inaugurated in 1869. And you can imagine this is en route to Suez Canal, you know very well. So you can see here Aden, and what is this gap here? What do you call that? Strait of Bab el Mandab. Right, this one. I mean, in a physical map, you can see that, which is written there. अच्छा, इसमें भी नहीं लिखा. So वेस्ट एशिया वाला पेज में देखेंगे. फिर देखना तो जरूरी है. अगर नहीं दिखा है तो हम जब तक नहीं देखेगा हम छोड़ेगा नहीं. Okay, okay. You see, what is written here? Bab el Mandab. Okay. What is the sobriquet for Bab el Mandab? I said in the class earlier, much before. Those who are appearing for this year, not for next year people. Bab el Mandab is also known as. Okay, quiz competition में हम लोग पढ़ते थे ना, क्या है? Is known as gate of. I said in the class, gate of. क्या है? गेट ऑफ प्यार, दुख, क्या है? गेट ऑफ टीयर्स. बोला था या नहीं बोला था? अब बोला सर, आपने बोला था. So why is it called gate of tears? It's an arid region. It is in the high pressure belt, and this region, it's both sides. It is hot because of the desert. So it is very, very warm and humid, and the sailors in those times, they used to be very upset about entering into Red Sea because of the oppressive climate here. Okay, anyway, so this Bab el Mandab region and Aden became a major port for refueling in those days in 19th century, and that is why Britishers had a good foothold on this. Okay. And after 1920, after the end of the First World War, when the Ottoman Empire completely collapsed, North Yemen got independence. But South Yemen did not get independence. They continued under the British rule till 1967. South Yemen also got independence only in around 1967. But the fight between the North and South continued. So after independence, now they were fighting between for their border disputes, and issues continued. But meantime, in 1978, one very powerful leader came to power and who continued to rule till 2011 in North Yemen. Subsequently, he only unified both the countries. So 1978, Ali Abdullah Saleh. He came to power, he captured power. He was from North Yemen, and by 1990 he unified it. Finally, during the Arab Spring, he had to step down, even though he was in command, but still under pressure from the popular revolt, and he handed over power to his deputy. It is Mansur Hadi. Mansur Hadi. And meantime, see, like in most of the these Arab countries, one big issue is the sectarian divide among the Muslims. The Shia Sunni divide. So same thing is here also. In Yemen also there is a sectarian issue also. Northern Yemen, see, in fact, most of the population in Yemen is found only in this. You can see the rest are all fully desert, not even a road. You just see, na koi town hai, no big towns. Everything is in this northwest as well as in this Aden. So everything is in the western part. That corner only the population. The rest are all sparsely populated. This is a big desert. Hadram, what kya hai? वो जो भी है, it's a you can see just above that, Rubal Khali. Okay, all Khali hai. Okay, nothing, empty quarters, no population, nothing. That is why this word itself has come. Okay, and this is entirely this is part of the Arabian desert. Okay, so this northern portion of the Sanaa and the Sada is the northernmost city here. Then Sanaa, then they have a port here. You can see that Hodeida. Okay. And then of course, this Aden is very important for them. Anyway, so the division here is a sect, or rather it is not exactly Shias, but they are very close to Shias. They are, they are called Houthis. Hadi is different. Now we are talking about, Zaidis, not Hadi, Zaidi. Zaidi Shias. See, this is not exactly, they are not exactly the same followers of Shia sect. See, in fact, as I was mentioning earlier also, in the entire, the Muslim sectarian divide, it is all about who should be the successor of Prophet. Okay. So, that is how the first division, that Shia Sunni divide started. Even among Shias, then there are ones, it's like, in Christianity we have this Catholics versus Protestants problem. Catholics are those who, those who accept the lineage of Pope and the Catholic Church, okay, the Universal Church. All others who are against, or rather who are not following the Pope and the Catholics are generally called as Protestants. But Protestants are not one group, there are hundreds of groups like that. Same way, in Shia sect also, once the division has started regarding who should be the successor, so in Shia say that Ali should have been the successor, and then subsequently from Ali who should have been taking over, like this lineage issue has come. They said in blood it should have been there, but now which lineage will come? So there are many sects within or other after Ali, then who should be the next successor, then the third, the fourth, the fifth, like that. So the division. So Zaydis are also one among that. They have no doubt regarding who should have been the successor. They say it is Ali should have been the successor. But then the third, fourth, fifth generation when it came, they had difference of opinion. So they had a different one. So similarly, any other sect you can remember? No, Ahmadiyas are different. Ahmadiyas are fundamentally against the whole principle of Islam. What is that? I said Ahmadiyas are fundamentally against the whole principle of Islam. Why? One of the basic tenets of Islam is Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet. But Ahmadiyas say that Mr. Ahmad says, I am also another prophet, which is unacceptable, this is blasphemy. Okay, so don't talk about Ahmadiyas here. But in Shia, Sunni and Zaydi, which is the other one which you can remember, any other sect. In Syria, okay, Syria is ruled by whom? I mean, of course, civil war is going on. Who is the designated president of Syria? Bashar al-Assad. Bashar al-Assad. He belongs to a sect. Okay, it is called, their sect is called Alawite. I am sure I said it at some point of time, those veterans in the class. Veterans are those who are attending my class for almost 1 year. At some point in time I said this, okay. Alawites are also not exactly Shias, but they are also saying Ali, that from Ali that Alawite has come. They are also agreeing that Ali should have been the successor, but subsequently they are divided. Almost 10% of the population of Syria are Alawites. So, but they are not exactly Shias, but Shia connection. That is why Iran is the that is the headquarters of Shia community. So Iran says, oh, ye bhi mera badija hai, jo bhi hai. Okay, so for Iran, Alawites are cousins. Similarly, for Iran, Zaydis are also some cousin. Okay, because after all, they have accepted Ali as the successor of Prophet Muhammad, and then subsequently divisions have come. So that is why these Zaydi Muslims or the Zaydi Shias are supported by Iran, and these Zaydi Shias are around 35% of the population of Yemen, which they live mostly in the northern Yemen. Are you getting this now? So Zaydis, they are a sect of Shia community. We can say 35% of the, approximately 35 to 40% maybe, but the rest are the majority, the Sunni Muslims, the way in most of the Arab countries which are there. Okay. So there is a sectarian divide between in south mostly they are Sunni Muslims, in north mostly it is Zaydi Shia community. We cannot call it as Shias, but for an outsider we can say it is Shia, but they are not following exactly the Shia tenets, no. But yes, they are called Zaydis only, but we are clubbing it for our understanding that yes, they are they are closely linked to Shias, that is why Iran is supporting. Okay, so that was, but when the 2011 Arab Spring took place, it was not a Shia Sunni divide at that time. Okay, it was mainly the protest against the ruler at that time, that is Ali Abdullah Saleh. He was it was a dictator. Almost from 78 onwards he is ruling, you can imagine. So more than 30 years of rule. So naturally a lot of protests were there, and that is how the protest started. Okay. So that was in 2011, and he stepped down. But in 2014, a new entrant into the conflict. So even though the power was transferred, everything, this new leader, okay, here this Mansur Hadi, he was not able to manage the scene. Okay, he could not manage it, and a lot of further protests. So a new entrant into the scene was the rebels called Houthis or Houthi rebels. And these Houthi rebels are predominantly this sect, that is Zaidi Shias, predominantly Zaidi Shias. And they were supported by Iran because of the Iranian connection, and because of the support of the Iran, they were armed, and within no time they captured Sanaa, the capital. And the president, who was at that time Hadi, Mansur Hadi, had to run away. He escaped, and he initially he reached Aden in south, but subsequently he escaped, and he took asylum, or rather he is in Saudi Arabia. And when the the Saudi leadership realized that with the support of Iran they are going to capture the entire country, they captured the capital. When they are going to capture the entire country in 2015, Saudi Arabia decided to enter into the war to support the government, an Arab alliance, okay, an Arab alliance of Saudi Arabia, UAE, etc., entered into the war, and it was supported by USA, UK, France, etc., all big powers, Israel, all of them. They supported to counter Iran, because Iran is their common enemy. So because of that, all these people entered into the scene. And but these Saudis, UAE and all, even Pakistan also, earlier they were planning, but subsequently a lot of confusion was there. But whatever, they were focusing mainly on air strikes or aerial bombing. Subsequently, they reached Aden. I mean, they sent their troops to Aden. So because of that, the rebels could not capture Aden. But otherwise, these Saudi, UAE and the Arab forces, they were not willing to send their foot soldiers, because you send foot soldiers means there will be destruction, killing. So they were not willing. Their main concern is how to some sort of help them using air power. But these Houthis are hardcore on ground people. For them, ठीक है, attack हो गया, 4 मर गया, कोई बात नहीं, 5वां जिंदा है, let us continue. Okay, that kind of mindset. They are not afraid of, ना हम लोग को बंदूक दिखाएगा तो डरेगा नहीं. Okay, because they are hardcore on ground soldiers. Okay, and whenever there are air strikes, you know very well, maybe 20% rebels may get killed, but 80% will be common men. Okay, naturally, if an aerial strike or a bomb cannot classify or distinguish who is rebel, who is not rebel and all, everyone in the vicinity will be killed. So the collateral damage is very high. Whenever somebody is resorting only on aerial bombing, the biggest problem is not only the intended target, even the surrounding people also will die. So that is a big problem which is going on. So this, the coalition, the Arab coalition, the Arab states, especially led by Saudi, UAE, etc., which are supported by US, UK, France, etc., they all tried. But it was expected in 2015 when they started, it was said that it's like, Russia overrunning Ukraine. बोला कि एक हफ्ते का खेल होगा, बाएं हाथ के खेल है, all those nonsense, it was said, and you know it very well. Now Russia is not able to control, they could not even capture in a single city. Even today they have not completely captured even a single city in Ukraine. The same thing has happened here since 2015 when the war began, when Saudi Arabia entered into the scene. It was said that it will be a matter of hours before Saudi and UAE and supported by US, UK, everyone, we will overrun the rebels and they will establish this Hadi government once again and the rebels will be thrown out. That is what it said. Now it is already in 2022. Nothing has happened. War is still continuing and you can imagine thousands of people are getting killed and it has become more and more bloody. Okay. So, so now as I told you, now in between what happened is 2-3 interesting things happened is by 2016 when see now when the Houthis started when they captured the capital and when the marching surrounding from the from south, the government forces were countering with the help of Saudi government plus Saudi plus UAE were countering it. Meantime, what happened is the president who was thrown out in the first place in 2011, Abdullah Saleh, he woke up once again and he joined Houthis. Are you getting this? Saleh, who was thrown out in 2011 and he was supposed to be neutral, now he joined Houthis against his own deputy, that Hadi government. So he joined the other side and they started countering. So suddenly Saleh has become a player in the war once again. But in 2017, once again there are difference of opinion between Houthis and Saleh. And this time Saleh said that I will join the government forces. At that time Houthis had nothing doing and a war between them, and in that firing or fighting Saleh was killed. Okay. So in 2017 this former president, after playing around with the game again and again a couple of times, so this Saleh got killed. So but in 2018 this loyalists of Saleh they joined the government forces. Okay. So there is a twist in the north. So otherwise Saleh was from the north, please remember, and that is why he showed some interest in joining Houthis. Now he revolted, he was killed and his loyalists joined the government. Okay. So that is something, that is a twist in the game. Then another twist which happened was that in 2018 in south a new rebel force emerged. Are you getting this? So now twist after twist, like Hindi movie the serials, that K serials. Okay. Suddenly एक नया character लाएगा, फिर उसका 3-4 महीना चलाना है उनसे. So the same thing has happened here. So now a new rebel force came from south, which is known as Southern Transitional Council. STC, Southern Transitional Council. So they are a separatist group now and they want independence of southern Yemen or South Yemen independence once again. Their demand is South Yemen independence. So in north the Houthi rebels fighting against the government. In south, now Southern Transitional Council, they are fighting against the government. Saudi Arabia entered into the scene, as I already told you, to reinstate the Hadi government, which they are not able to, but in the process too much of aerial bombing. So if you look at the present situation, just a minute, the control, I would like to just show that part. Okay, just a minute. So how much is being controlled? Yeah. So you can see this the Houthis and pro-Saleh forces, that is what it was said at that time. So, this is the control of the Houthi rebels, this region, this bluish color. Okay. Then we have some the Hadi government control, that is what they are showing, but mainly in south, but the rest of the region is all desert. Okay. So, hardly any population here. So, most of the populated region are controlled by the Houthis. Okay. Some government control forces also here. So, that is how by and large. So, in the west and the north it is entirely occupied by the rebels right now. Okay. So, that is what I wanted to say. So, the present situation, as I told you, is Houthis on one side, government forces and Saudi Arabia, UAE on the second side, and the third force, the Southern Transitional Council, who wants independence. And if at all we want to have a fourth, yes, fourth also is there, that is the Al-Qaeda that that terrorist group also. There is a lot of desert region, free land. So, there are some forces also of that nature. So, all put together there are too much of confusion, we can say, and ultimately the final, if you talk about the final analysis, in Yemen also, similar to what is happening in Ukraine or anywhere, too many vested interests. Okay. There is a sectarian divide. So, Saudi Arabia, then UAE, even USA, UK, etc. on one side, then the Houthis, then Iran. If Iran is there, Syria is also with them. Then in Lebanon, there are rebels. What do you call those rebels of Lebanon? They are also Shias. Any idea? They are known as Hezbollahs. See, I was talking about Ali, Prophet Muhammad's son-in-law, no? I am talking about him. नहीं देखो, if अब ये बताओ, what will USA get? नहीं आप बताओ. नहीं आप बताओ ना. I mean, you also give some idea. You are all grown-up people. My dear, कोई humanitarian now ये चीज बता दो. हाँ? कोई oil तेल कुछ नहीं होता इसमें. Okay? It is all about. It is all about. Our geopolitical interest. Okay, it's all about, if at all you want to, you cannot, what you call with some specific, only oil. These days oil is not a big issue right now. Why? Because we are phasing out oil. Maybe by 2050 all countries will have to give up oil and have some alternate energy. So, see, for example, now since you asked this question, what benefit India will get in Sri Lanka if we support Sri Lanka? Dekho, geopolitical interest. Okay, this is what we call it as geopolitical interest. Sri Lanka agar mare udhar, Sri Lankans die, it's not that India will have to have a major problem. We can simply say we will not support you. It is your problem, you made the problem, you created the problem, now you pay. But why are we offering almost $3-4 billion of credit? We are sending oil, food grains. Okay, so that we know that by doing all these things, we can put pressure on Sri Lanka, so such a way that their relationship with China can be under check. We were trying to do it before, but we were not able to. Now we got an opportunity. They are in trouble, so we said we will support you. लेकिन वो धीरे से बोला, हम जोर से नहीं बोलेगा वो. We tell it silently. The same way, what is the interest of US in not allowing Iran to come up? So they have their own geopolitical interests. So Iran has its own various interests, multiple interests. I cannot talk about all Iranian interests right now, because then we will have to talk about Iran. Okay, Iran is a what you call superpower. I will not call it a superpower. It is a regional power of West Asia. Iran is the leader of the Shias. Okay, Iran is the gateway to Central Asia. So they have their own interest in having their own flock. Now, what is our interest in Nepal, if you ask? Agar Nepal marriage in there, hame kya problem hai? No. But we have great interest in Nepal. Why? Because China is a factor there. We have to checkmate. It's a power game. In an international power game, we will always try to have more influence across the world. That is what Iran wants to do. As a what you call one of, we can say, superpower of the world, US wants to control that. The whole Cold War during the till 1990, what was it? It's a power game. They want, the US wants to influence, continuous influence across the world. Soviet Union also wanted to have their own sphere of influence. Then they fight to have more control. So this is a question of who controls what and who is the boss. Okay. So the same way, in West Asia there are two big powers. Who are they? Saudi Arabia on one side and Iran on the other side. So there is a conflict regarding who is a bigger power, a better power, who is more influential. So they are. See, in fact, in West Asia now it's a triangular game, we can say. There are three powers. One is Saudi, another is Iran, and number three is Israel. And whenever India talks about West Asia relations, we have to deal with all the three. We would like to have good relations with Israel, we would like to have good relations with Saudi Arabia, we would like to have good relations with Iran also, because we have our interest, diversified interest. So India has a big challenge. On one side, if you move closer to Iran, which is opposed by, Iran is opposed by both Saudi and Israel because of their own reasons. And if you move closer to Israel, we are antagonizing both. So there is a balancing game which is going on. So this is what we call in general as the geopolitical interest, what we are talking. Okay. So anyway, so this conflict which is going on in Yemen, it has serious implications on India also. What are India's interest in this, or India's interest, if at all we have to say? Number one, for India, just across Yemen only, the shipping routes to Europe, that is through Gulf of Aden and then Bab el-Mandeb into Suez Canal. So it is passing through that. Gulf of Aden is very important. Gulf of Aden is very important for India, and our international trade, at least more than $100 billion worth bilateral trade passes through Suez Canal. Okay, more than $100 billion worth trade passes through Suez Canal. Similarly, now another big problem for India is the Indian origin, Indian nationals in West Asia. Indian nationals in West Asia, and all communities, at least around 8 million expats living in this region, and remittance is a big source of income for India. How much is the remittance? which we are getting approximately? Economics class में बताया होगा, कितना बताया? Last latest is that 2021 में होगा ना? It is $83 billion in 2021. $83 billion of remittance to India, and this remittance is the largest for any country in the world. Okay, of the total income of India, if you count, $83 billion which are coming is as part of remittance. That means we Indians go and work for some other country, earn money and send that saving to India. So, it is not a good thing to talk about. Okay, we are not able to generate enough employment for our people, or our salaries are very less. So, people are more than willing to go and work in those countries and then get the money back. Of course, West Asia plays a very crucial. I am not saying all $83 billion are coming from West Asia, but a substantial portion of that money comes from West Asia. Of course, USA, Canada, from all these countries remittance come, but this is also. So, we need to have very good relationship in this region. We need to handle, that is why we need to handle Saudi Arabia, we need to handle Iran, we need to handle all these countries. Okay. So, that is the number 2 reason. What is the significance for India? That is what I am saying. And so, the remittance can be affected. Now, this civil war, any civil war will have its own repercussions. Okay. If there is no government, this can be a safe haven for many rebels. Okay. Al-Qaeda type, you might have heard about that IS and all, Islamic State. So, they were always looking for such places where there is political instability, so that they can survive there. So, and this can have an effect on India also. Tomorrow, this IS IAS type of what do you call groups, they can also, because India has the second largest Muslim population in the world. Who is the largest? Indonesia. Okay, Indonesia is the largest. Number 2 is India. And the very interesting thing about the Indian Muslim population is we have not joined any rebel or any such terrorist groups. Hardly any Indian. Even in the IS IAS, when the peak time 14-15 time, okay, from Pakistan, from Western world, from Belgium, from America also, they some of them joined these kind of terrorist groups. Even from Maldives, such a small country, they contributed more rebels than what Indian Muslim joined. Hardly anyone. So, we have a great the culture of tolerance, understanding everything. Now, if too many, what I am trying to say, that if too many rebels and these kind of groups in our vicinity, this can lead to some sort of recruitment from India also tomorrow. After some time, there can be there will be groups who will try to misguide the people and then try recruitments and this and that. So, even Afghanistan is a problem for us because of that. Tomorrow, if too many rebels there, and if they are able to have in a proper mechanism, they may indoctrinate our people. So, any such rebels in our vicinity can become a safe haven for many rebels, and it can also end up in recruitment of our own youth, which can be a problem. See, please remember, last census we talk about 175 million Muslims in India, 175 million. Okay. Now, in 2022, even if we go by the normal growth rate, we might have reached around 190 million at least. Okay, even more than that, almost 200 million. Now we can say we are around 200 million Muslim population. Now, even if it is 0.001% are misguided, no country will be able to hold on to that kind of number of rebels. So, if 1% joins, what will happen? 200 millions 1%? 200 millions 1% यार, हाँ, इसके लिए रॉकेट सॉरी कंप्यूटर कैलकुलेटर कितना चाहिए? 2 million. 2 million is equal to 1%. कोई डाउट नहीं है ना? 2 million मतलब 20 लाख है ना? उसमें भी डाउट हो गया, इधर उधर देखिएगा, अभी बताएगा नहीं तुम लोग. 20 लाख if 1%, 0.1%, 2 lakh, 0.01%, 20,000. I said 0.001%, 2,000. If 2,000 hardcore terrorists move around in India, कितना भी इंच हो तुम्हारा इधर, okay, you will not be able to control. Okay, country will be in a civil war. If you have 2,000 hardcore, terrorists or rebels moving around in the length and breadth of India, what I am saying is, we will not be, no country will be able to manage that. It is not that easy. It's very easy to tell, ऐसे कर दूंगा, वैसे कर दूंगा, उड़ा दूंगा, ठोक दूंगा, ये है, वो है. So, statements तो बहुत सुनेगा, but in reality it will be disaster. Okay. So, what I am trying to tell you is, we are lucky that our culture and our tolerance, our understanding of our, the Indian, the Indianization of each religion has ensured that we don't believe in violence. But we don't want, but people want to create violence and create trouble. That's another thing, but generally that is why, that is unique. With all these troubles and problems and multiplicity of issues, India contributed the least number of rebels and terrorists to this ISIS type of organization. That is something great of our culture and our upbringing. Okay. So, that is why Yemen's problem can be a concern for us. Okay. And trade, oil, and our majority of the oil comes from there. You can also mention about that. A fourth point you can always add, India is importing 80% of our oil requirements. Now you may say that Russia है, चिंता क्यों कर रहा है, अलग से तेल मिलेगा हमें तो, but 80% oil requirement, majority we are purchasing from West Asia. So that is why this region is very important. So multiplicity of problems right now. I said Houthis in the north, Southern Transitional Council in the south, then the government-led forces, then Al-Qaeda related. So 4 different groups are fighting, and it is one of the poorest. Yemen is one of the poorest in the world, poorest countries in the world, one of the. Already the country was poor, now all these problems adding up to this. So since 2011, more than 10 years have gone, almost 11 years of civil war we can say. But from 14, the civil war escalated after Houthis captured power, captured the city, Sanaa city, the capital city. Since then, and 15 onwards, Saudi Arabia and other team entered the scene. So it has become bloody, and hundreds of people are getting killed on a regular basis. So I have picked this also because many experts are saying this war is more brutal and worse than what is going on in Ukraine. Here a lot of poverty, then struggle, suffering, everything, lack of food, everything is a problem here. Okay. So that is the situation as far as Yemen is concerned. So when you read, now please understand it further. Okay.